All right, so we have this OR light here, right? Let's turn it on. Now, not sure how well you can see it, but we have approximately about 24 LEDs out. Now, you can individually replace these, absolutely. But what I wanted to get into is the process of opening this up and things you need to be aware of in the case that you do need to work on one of these. And just for reference, this is a LED 585. So, first thing you're gonna wanna do is there is a kind of like a protective gasket over this. You can just pull up on it. All right, so we got the gasket off. Like I said, it just pulls right off. Then you have a set of about 6 or 7 screws that go all the way around. They're just hex screws, take them off. Before you do anything else, remember, boom arms on these, they're spring loaded. If you take this handle off, which is what's left securing this light, this thing is gonna spring up on you. There are wires that are running from the boom arm to supply power and communications to this light. So you can inadvertently damage the board if you do not have this situated in a safe manner. So every OR should have an OR table. Use it to your advantage. The advice I'm giving is if you are working by yourself, I'm going to show you what I do. Use the table to your advantage. Medical tape is stronger than it looks, folks. Wrap it around the boom arm a couple times. Bring it around the table, secure it, rope it around a couple more times. This will hold the light in place so it doesn't spring up on you. I've also used bungee cables. However, in my experience, some of them are not as thick to go around this arm to where you're going to get a good connection. Secondly, let's say if you bump it, then this is going to come dislodge and it's going to go slinging on you. I've seen people use ratchet straps as well. Find something that works for you that will hold it fixated in place to where it's not going anywhere. This is the most critical step that you could probably do, is to make sure that you have this secured to where it is not moving anywhere. All right, next, let's take care of the handle. So this right here, as you know, this fixates concave back and forth to adjust the lighting. You'll want to left-hand turn, unscrew it. Next step you're going to look at right here is this will unscrew as well. Like so. All right. You're going to have 4 hex head screws right here. Be careful, there is a ribbon cable right under here which controls the membrane buttons on here. So once you get the 4 screws out, slowly release it so you can take the ribbon cable out. All right, so we got the ribbon cable off, easy disconnected. Right here, you'll notice there is kind of like a cotter around here. This is what is finally holding the rest of the weight of this up. So once you pry this up, I recommend having a handle on the back side to hold it flush. That way it doesn't fall out and rip all your wires off that board. So usually just get you a very thin flathead screwdriver, maybe some needle nose, just to slowly pry this ring around. Then there's going to be a metal gasket and a plastic gasket. Take those off. After that, the light will start coming out through the top side, and then that's when you want to move to the board. All right, so as you can see, I have not pulled it off yet. If you look in here, there's plenty of wires connecting to the one board that controls everything. The sensor cable right here, you got a ground cable connected, you got your comm cable, and you got your video out cable. And then that big white one right there is your power supply cable right there. Any of these rip off the board, you're gonna have a hell of a time having to resolder, reseat, all that jazz. So I usually recommend, once you got it set, just slowly take your time, disconnect the power cable first, which is that black and white connector right there with the white Molex. So I've disconnected the ground and I've disconnected the power cable. Before you can lift this up, obviously I gotta take the comm and the video out still from the board. See that zip tie right there? You're gonna need to cut that zip tie because that's holding all the cables in place to the frame of the light. As you can see, there is not a lot of room with these cables. When you're removing them, you're gonna have to work in that tight little window that I was taking the video in a minute ago. Other thing you have to be cognizant about is these plastic pieces, which are the lenses for the LEDs. These will break and snap so easily. That's also why you have to take your time, because if these snap, hope that it was one of the LEDs that were broken. When you're replacing these or taking them out, you'll notice a very, very small hex bit. I had to use my small computer bit set just to be able to find a size to get this. This isn't going to be in your normal hex tool line. And again, you'll want to be careful when you're unscrewing these, because there's not a lot of room to be able to get into these and unscrew them. Once you get both of these off, then you'll want to make sure that you disconnect. You'll also notice that certain ones have 2 connections because they're layered. I bet you're asking, how does he know which ones he needs to replace? How can he remember all the LEDs that need to be swapped? Turn on the light, take a picture of it. That way when you have it off and on the table, you can see which LEDs are off. And what I'll do is I'll reference that picture and I'll mark the specific one with a permanent marker or something. That way I can see which ones I need to swap out. All right, we got it all fixed. All the LEDs are on. Do everything reverse order that you took it apart as. So hook up the the video cable, and then the power supply cable last. That way everything's connected before you apply power to everything. Key notes, when you're putting this back on, take your time and make sure you're not binding any of these wires in here. If you were to cut any of those wires, all that hard work you just spent all that time on replacing LEDs, you just gave yourself more work. Second thing is, when you are lowering the headpiece back onto the frame, this right here is going to get caught. So my best suggestion is to tape it down so that way it's flush, just so you can get it through. Once you get it through, everything's easy peasy. You can just put everything back together.
You did it! Congratulations!